everyone, this is Ariane Reed, and this is my 6 months on tea. So in this video, this is going to be a long video because I'm going to go over everything that's happened between pre-tea and 6 months on tea. So the number one thing that a lot of us are very excited about is our voice. So as far as voice changes go, my voice started changing around pretty much right away, I would say, just because I started getting sore throats within a few days of starting tea. And I want to say that day 5 or day 9 or something like that, after the first week or so, I started waking up with sore throats, things like that. But I didn't really hear much of a change for a little while. So my voice started actually breaking around month 3. Between month 3 and month 6, that's when my voice really started to change. But before then, between pre-tea and 3 months on tea, that is when my voice started dropping. And between 3 months and 6 months, that's when it not only dropped, but it also broke. And what I mean by broke is it got all raspy like it is right now. And also, I mean that as in I couldn't reach certain notes anymore. I started losing my higher notes one by one. And it wouldn't quite be like you would think, it wasn't a regular shift. It was okay, you have access to this note and this note, but not these notes or these notes. It was really just it was kind of chaotic how it did that. But anyway, so my voice has changed a lot, and there will be a comparison at the end of this video so you can really hear how it changed. The other thing I want to go over is also acne. I did get some acne. I think I've got a little bit going on at the moment on my face, but thankfully I didn't break out my face a whole lot, which is pretty cool because I was kind of worried about that. I struggled with acne a lot as a kid during female puberty, so I was pretty worried about it during this. But I've been getting a lot of acne, but not on the face, thankfully, because I'm very shallow, so I'm very happy that my face was spared. Unfortunately, during this kind of puberty, my back was not spared. So I intentionally wore this shirt so you can all kind of see it a little bit. And I also tried to wear this new binder GC2B came out with that. It's pretty cool. It's not quite so covering as the previous ones, but it can be a little uncomfortable for its own reasons. But so as you can see, I did get a little bit of acne on my shoulders, and I do have some freckles, but I think a lot of what these spots that you're seeing, these are all acne, and plus I just got a whole bunch of little dots, and it kind of comes down my arms a little bit. And I have it also on my back a little, on each side, not necessarily down the middle, but down each side of my back. So I wanted to be able to show you all that. I am suffering from acne, even if I look gorgeous. The other thing I want to go over in regards to acne is also just random white things that just come out of your skin. Especially, I'm getting it right now through my chin a lot, and it's actually was looking a little bit yellowy today. I don't know if I'm detoxing right now, so I don't know if maybe some impurities work their way up into my chin pores, but it's something that just happens now and then. You have to just wipe at your skin, and stuff just comes out. I'm trying not to say the word and right now. This is my this is my New Year's resolution, is to not say those words. And as you can see, it is going spectacular. Anyway, I get a lot of white crap that comes out, especially through here right now. And I just wipe, and it just keeps coming back out, so I just keep wiping, and it just keeps coming back out. But eventually, when you just keep wiping it, it kind of runs out at some point, which is cool because I don't like walking around with feeling like I've got nasty stuff just sticking out of my pores. My only assumption is that it must be just skin oil that my body wants to put here someday, even if it clearly hasn't done that yet. It is maybe in the works, or at least the oil for it is definitely in the works. So that's one thing they don't really tell you about when you go on tea, is that you're just going to have random stuff just crawling out of your pores at all times, and you have to just keep wiping it away. Another thing I want to go over in regards to acne, and I don't know if this is acne per se, but I've been getting white bumps on my stomach. I don't know if you'll be able to see them in this video, but let me see if I can find one. well, they're not always white. Like this one, you might be able to see it. It's um, a little bit colored, but um, you know, I don't really have many today. But you do get them on your stomach here and there now and then, or I do anyway. And I'm thinking that they must be maybe ingrown hairs or something, but they're not very pink, so I'm not really sure. Now my biter is all messed up. Um, the next thing I want to go over is hair changes. So when I say hair changes, I don't necessarily mean up here because nothing's really happened much up here. I have lost a little bit of baby hairs, I think, through there and through here. It didn't really change the look for me very much because my baby hairs through here were the same color as my skin. So I think I still look about the same as far as like hairline goes. But in regards to hair on the rest of my body, I am getting a little bit more on my arms. This is very recent. Like I want to say the last like month or two, I started getting just a little bit more hair. I think kind of creeping up my arms and also largely down like the side of my arm. Okay, so like here's my hand. So I've been getting it through here. And also I've got a bunch of hair through here that I didn't used to have. I used to just have hair like through here and a little bit up the arms, but not so much. And now it's kind of like it's spreading. I've got a little bit more up here, just a touch, and mainly just a lot like all through here, through here. And lately, I'm starting to get little hand hair coming down, creeping down through here. So I don't know if you can see that, but I am. So that's just delightful. I'm even starting to get like through here, like, ugh, gross. Hand hair. Anyway. Oh, and of course, as you saw, I'm getting a little bit on my stomach. I've got like a little bit of a happy trail, and you can't really see a lot of what's going down here because it's so light, so fair. But I've got hair coming all the way down through here, starting right about here. I've got a little bit right here, and it's coming down. It's getting longer, and it's also getting longer like all through here as well. So I think it's working on making an actual happy trail for me down there. I've also got more hair on my legs. So, so up here, I've been getting it like through here, like you get a lot of hair through here and like also over here as well. And I feel like the rest of it is just a little bit longer too. So that is the other thing you get. And that was actually what I got first was my hair it dove down the inside of my legs first, like as if like my groin was contagious and it was just slowly spreading down my leg. So I got that first. And also the happy trail. The happy trail was probably actually the very, very first thing. And then around that time, that's when I decided to change gears and go down my legs. And then after it started going down my legs, that's when I started noticing it also down the sides of my arms too. So it's going to a lot of different places. Unfortunately, not much through here, as you can see. I do have a little bit of a mustache. I haven't really shaved it in like a week, and you still can't see it, but it's super weak. It's literally just like the occasional like black hair through here, and it's a very thin kind of black hair, so when it does come in, it's so weak you can't even really tell that I've got it. So I just keep shaving it because there's no point in having a mustache that basically just looks like someone's shadow is falling on you at all times. So it gets shaved off. Fat shifts. So next thing I want to go over is how my fat has changed. So in my face, it's changed a little bit. Like I feel like there's maybe a little bit less through here and maybe a little bit more like down here. And especially like on my chin, like my chin kind of sticks out a little bit more than I remember it. And I feel like it's making my chin look a little bit wider than it used to. And it's also just kind of filling in down here and giving me more down here, like more face, more face down here. I feel like my nose sticks out a little bit more. I feel like also my brows up here, like, stick out just a little bit more. And I'm so depressed at how many times I've said like, but anyway, I feel like the hourglass has changed a little bit. Like it used to be very much more inward, but it's starting to really fill in. It's not quite, you know, what you would expect for a typical man, but it's getting there. And you know, all the fat did move down off my legs. So, well, not all of it, but hopefully someday. But like a lot of it. So now I'm much more like defined looking. My legs are a little bit more defined, and the muscle is a little bit easier to see just because there's less fat hiding all of it. So, um, it's just a little bit cooler looking, even though I don't really work my legs as much as I should, and nowhere near as much as I work my upper body. But a lot of it seems to be moving up, and I feel like I've got more just, you know, up here through here. I've got just more like weight in general, like up here, not so much underneath the breast tissue, and I definitely got a lot more here. I definitely feel like I am much thicker here, whereas I used to look a bit more like this pre-T. Now I look a little bit more like this. The other thing I want to go over is also muscle. So I do have a little bit more muscle up here. I have a little bit more like through here and through here. I find that muscle is just a little bit easier to put on the upper body, whereas it used to be a little more difficult. Now it's a little bit less difficult. My legs are still really strong. I've never had trouble putting muscle on down there. It's always been really easy to have really strong legs. So they're still strong. Nothing's much changed, but I also don't work them out as much as I work on my upper body. I'm really working on getting my upper body stronger, but I feel like my lats are a little bit stronger. Like they really have been starting to come in, and I just feel like in general, like there's just more weight up here. Like that's just where I carry my weight nowadays, and I just feel a little bit stronger overall. My muscles just, they look a little bit bigger to me. The other thing I want to go over is also hunger. So you start getting right away, your hunger really changes. So my hunger, like my hunger cravings began at like 36 hours after starting T. Like I'm talking really quick, okay? Like the hunger comes in, it attacks you, and you then in turn attack all food substances within your area, okay? So if you're someone who hasn't started T yet, really think about what kind of food you got at home, and if you can, if you have any control over it, try to get rid of the not so healthy foods and put in more like plant-based foods, etc. because you're gonna wake up like at 3 a.m. starving your butt off. Then you're gonna wake up again at 5 a.m. starving your butt off. You know, it's just gonna attack you. So you gotta be prepared to just become ravenous. So you're gonna need to make sure you got some foods to fill that void, because you're gonna be really hungry. And then the hunger kind of, I get a shot and once every 2 weeks, like most people. And what happens is like your hunger will like spike within like 36 hours or 48 hours, somewhere around there, and then it will like taper off, and then it spikes again with after your next shot. And so you kind of have to, I think your metabolism is what's doing it. I think your metabolism is spiking and then going off, tapering off. So you have to I try to make sure that I'm eating a little bit less as my cycle goes down, and then eating more when it goes back up. It's kind of something you kind of have to get used to. Weight gain. So, as I said, I am a little bit thicker around the stomach, but I've gotten much stronger. I feel like I feel a little bit broader muscle-wise, like just a little bit bigger up top. So I think a lot of my weight has gone up here. I have put on about 5 or 6 pounds in the last 6 months since I started T. So it's not anything to really, for me, it wasn't anything to really worry about. I was really worried about before I started T, but it hasn't been super serious, and I feel like a lot of it is muscle. I don't feel like I've been putting on a lot of fat, but I've also not been allowing myself to put on a lot of fat. I've been eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, just living on that kind of a diet, you know, trying to put on healthy weight and not just put on weight, because I was prepared for that. But it does happen. You do tend to carry a little bit more weight. Like every candy bar shows up right on your stomach a lot more than it used to, whereas like, some of it would show up on your hips. Now it's like the entire thing goes to your stomach. So you have to just be careful about it. But it's not like out of control or anything like that, unless you are out of control. um, Another thing I want to go over is smell and sweating. So your smell kind of changes a little bit. You smell a little bit funkier, like darker, like deeper, like a manlier musk. Not so much of like that sharper feminine smell. It's just a little bit, it changes a little bit, but still like your smell just smells a little bit different. Anyway, enough about smells. But also sweating is something you do much easier. When you've been on tea for a while, you just, well, not much easier, but you do like a little bit easier. It is noticeable that you'll be just doing things like just moving around, just being active, or get a little bit nervous or something, and you'll just be like sweating. You can just feel the sweat just tickling down. It's really kind of embarrassing sometimes. I'll just be like standing like in an air conditioned room and just doing something, and I'll start sweating as if I'm super nervous or as if I'm working out or something like that. And it's kind of annoying, especially when you're in a binder and you're just like, you can just feel it like just trickling down your binder, and you're like, oh, now my binder is gonna be like all soggy all day, because those things don't dry fast. Ugh, binders. Anyway, you also, in combination with that, is body temperature. So your body temperature also seems like it rises, and especially rises towards like after you've just gotten a shot, and then it kind of, becomes a little more normal throughout that cycle. And then when you get your next shot, like, your body temperature seems to rise again, and so you tend to run a bit warmer. I don't necessarily know if my body temperature itself is rising. It must be because I feel warmer. What I'm trying to say is that I feel warmer. I haven't measured my body temperature, but I'm too lazy for that. But I do feel warmer. Like right now, it must be like, I think it's 55 degrees out here. And I'm normally someone where if it was below like 68, I would start to get kind of chilly and have to put on like a jacket or something. And I'm pretty sure it's like 54 or something like that out here right now. And I feel fine. I'm not wearing anything. I feel fine. I'm not even goose prickled or anything. The other thing I want to go over is also passing. So passing is something that I do a lot more nowadays. And it's kind of weird because it turns out that females are treated better than men. Like almost to the point where I would say it seemed like as a female I had more privilege. And now that as a guy, I kind of get treated more as though you've got this, we don't need to help you, we don't need to be as nice to you. Instead of people being like, oh, hi, ma'am, how can I help you? They're kind of like, hey, bro, what's up? What do you need? Like, they just treat you a little bit differently. And sometimes it's not for the better. I mean, but overall, I like knowing that I'm being societally placed in my correct role, that I am being gendered correctly, and that I'm being perceived as male. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen all the time, especially on the phone. I have a tendency to talk in like my higher range of my voice instead of like in my lower range of my voice. I'm kind of a peppy person. So like when I talk on the phone, I tend to talk a little bit higher. So maybe that's my problem. But lately I've been getting gendered as female on the phone by just random like customer service reps. It's really annoying. They all keep saying ma'am, and I'm like, gosh dang it. But it could also be that I chose the name Aryan, which is a feminine male name. It was like at the bottom of like the baby name list, and my partner liked it, so I went with it. And it was after a poet, and I'm a poet, so it seemed like it would work out. But over time, I'm thinking like it might have been a little too feminine of a name, but I'm a feminine guy, so whatever. I guess it works. But I think it's ruining my passing when it comes to being on the phone with random people, random strangers. Anyway, the other thing I want to go over is emotions. So emotions are a little bit more steady, and in general, just happier, just more mellow, more zen. But overall, most of the time, I'm very happy. I'm like very like upbeat. I'm happy. I'm texting people way too much. I'm using exclamation points in my emails, and then to people who barely know me, and then I have to like follow up and like, by the way, I wasn't yelling at you. I was being very happy and excited. So I feel like, and I tend to talk faster too. When I'm on like a fresh dose of testosterone, I will be like, and I'll look over, like, I'll be presenting, for instance, and I'll look over at the ASL interpreter, and my poor friend is just like, ha, I'm like, oh crap, I'm so sorry. And I'm like trying to slow down and speak more intelligently, because also I tend to like blur my words too when I speak too fast. I had a lot of speech impediments as a kid, and I never really graduated from speech therapy. I dropped out basically because we moved to a place that didn't have speech therapy. So I stopped getting that help. So I had to just work on it on my own, but sometimes it still crops up in my speech. So I have to be very careful when I'm on that, when I'm on week 1 of my 2-week dose. I have to be really careful that I talk slower and don't just machine gun all my words out, just anyway. Also, confidence is something that I have a lot more of. I feel more comfortable in my skin, and it wasn't necessarily in regards to passing. It's just something that I just feel in general, and I've got no reason for it. Like, I started feeling it really quickly before I started really gaining or noticing more muscle, or before I started like passing noticeably more or anything like that. I just felt more confident. I just felt more sure of myself in general. I just felt more like asserting myself. I felt like I kept standing up for myself, and I kept standing up for other people. And I'm normally like a pretty shy, kind of timid person. So to be standing up for myself, for instance, was a big change. I've never been someone who stood up for myself. I was always someone who stood up on behalf of other people, but not necessarily standing up and saying, hey, you can't treat me this way. I'm not going to allow it. I had to recently put my foot down with someone and say, no, going to I'm not going to do what you're saying. You're literally being homophobic to me right now. I'm not doing that when no one else here has to do that. Like, yeah, so there was one time where I had to really put my foot down, because I was like, this is outrageously unfair. And everyone around me was like just staring at this person because of what they were trying to do. It was just ridiculous. And normally I would have just been like, I probably would have just, not stood up for myself, or I would have just probably just, done what he said or something or whatever. But I stood up, and I got in his face, and I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm not doing that. So anyway, the other emotion I want to go over is anger. Anger is something I experience a little bit more heatedly when it happens. So it's not like I get angry more often. Maybe I do just a little bit, but I've never really been an angry person. So I'm usually a very patient person until someone gives me a reason to be angry, and then it's like whoosh, like this fire, and I'm just like, I am angry. Ah! So it's getting a little bit more harder to control when it does happen, but I've never had an instance where I wasn't able to control it. It's more difficult to control, but it doesn't mean you can't control it. It just means it's a much hotter fire than you're used to, and it tends to come in real fast, and really it kind of takes over. Well, it doesn't take over, but maybe if you let it will totally take over. But I've never had that big of a problem. It's always been something that I'm like, wow, I'm really, really angry about this. Okay, this might be testosterone. I need to not act on this the way I'm really daydreaming about acting on. Anyway, so anger is a little bit hotter when it comes in. Sadness isn't something that really affects me so much. Depression doesn't really affect me much these days. I've had plenty of reasons to be sad and to feel depressed. I've had a lot of challenges, of course. I'm trans, and technically I'm also gay, and I've been struggling with, just life things, and just people just being homophobic and transphobic and refusing to acknowledge my true identity and who I am as a person. And just a lot of those kinds of things. And I know, like, the very start of my transition, during like my first month on T, for instance, some things came up and like they made me bawl my eyes out, and things came up before T and that made me bawl my eyes out, and have to go like be alone for a while. And at one point I was dangerously depressed for a little bit. I don't really want to say depressed, because depression is something that you just have regardless of what's going on. It's not something that's necessarily triggered. Sadness is was what I was experiencing. I was experiencing some extreme sadness here and there. But nowadays, when those kinds of things come at me in life, they don't bother me so much anymore. Like when I lost my ability to sing, which was huge for me, because I was never a trained singer. I wasn't like a fantastic singer or anything like that, and which is why I thought I would be fine losing my singing voice. But actually, when I lost that soprano, it's something just kind of hit, and it just felt like I was a little bit upset about it. And then as soon as I got my next shot, things kind of like, because when I realized that I was losing my soprano, it happened like while my T was low. And then as soon as I got my next shot, I started to feel a little bit better, and I just kind of got through it a little bit easier. But when big things happen like that, I don't really get sad. I don't really cry. I just kind of brood on it and kind of think about it, but I can easily shift to thinking about something else. It's not like when you're before T, when something bad would happen, that would make you extremely sad. You would just like wallow on it. You would just obsess over it. You think about it from all angles. Like you just couldn't get out of that pit until you had explored every single angle of that pit. And then eventually you just would like run out of sadness or turn into anger or something, and eventually you'd get out that way. But now that I've been on T, I don't really do that so much anymore. I don't feel that so strongly. I don't really get sucked into that pit anymore. Now it's more just like, oh, that kind of annoys me, and I'm just gonna like not be happy for a little while and just kind of be grumpy for a bit, and then eventually just work my way out of being broody. Usually like 1 week of brooding is like my max, and then no matter how bad it is, like usually 1 week is my max, and then I'm done with it, and I don't need to ever address that thing again. So my emotions are much different. They're much more stable, and it's not like you're switching from like one extreme to a next or anything like that so much. It's much more, everything kind of mellows out and is much more zen in general. Dysphoria is something that bothers me a little bit less and less as I go through it. It's, for instance, my hips are still, they're still like annoyingly big as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to have like a more masculine shape, but I don't. But it bothers me less, especially since like I had a lot of dysphoria before I started. I was really self-conscious about people being able to see my binder. Nowadays, I kind of don't really care if they can see my binder. I've kind of just got used to the idea that I'm a trans man, and I'm not gonna hide it. I'm freaking proud of it. Like, so what if people can see my binder? So what if I'm working out, I'm wearing one of those like shirts that doesn't cover very much, and so you can see my binder? Like, who cares if they can see my binder? Like, I'm a freaking trans man. I am working out. I am this strong, and I was born female, and I only started testosterone a few months ago. Like, this is pretty freaking impressive. I've got nothing to be ashamed of. So, and I think a lot of us, we don't. Like, being trans is freaking brave, okay? Like, it means that we are like everyone else, except we were born a little extra adorable. Okay, like we're just a little more complicated. So, I mean, we've got literally nothing to be ashamed of. So I'm starting to get to the point where when it comes to certain things like that, I'm like, so what? I'm a guy with big hips. Like, get the fuck over it. I'm a guy with a freaking binder. So what? I'm alive. I'm here. And that's the important part, is that I'm alive. And as long as you're alive, you can be happy. It's your choice to be happy. But it is a little easier when you've been on T and your hips are a little bit slimmer and you've kind of gotten things figured out. You kind of got your clothes figured out. I'm going to make a video at some point about the kind of clothes that you can wear that will help you with passing. But, there's kind of a learning curve to being trans, to figure out which binders are great, which ones, like, for instance, a lot of the ones on Amazon suck. There's a lot of things to figure out, but not only have I figured a lot of things out, over time, but I just feel better. I feel more like the guy that I am. I look in the mirror and I see a man and I'm able to connect with myself. Whereas beforehand, I always wondered, like, is gender even real? Am I just imagining this? Like, what if transphobic people have it right? And that, and I'm just being crazy. I was like, I was in a very negative headspace, and I would kind of go into that negative headspace a lot. Like, I would kind of come in and out of it and was never quite sure who I was, what was going on with me. And I just felt very uncertain. And now I feel so much stronger. Like, I just, mentally speaking, like, I just feel like this is who I am. I'm just a guy with big hips and, no penis. And no designs to have a penis any point in time in the future at the moment. Maybe that'll change later on, but I feel good the way I am right now. And it's just, I feel so blessed that, like, all I have to do is go take an injection once every couple weeks, and for like the rest of my life, yes, but like, all I have to do is do that, and I get to look and feel like the man that I always felt I was inside. So like, that's it. It's pretty easy. It's not that crazy of a thing to have to go through to become who you are. So I just feel really blessed that this is all we have to do, and we get to look and sound and unfortunately smell like a man. So dysphoria becomes a lot easier to deal with when a lot of your dysphoric issues kind of melt away a little bit, and you have less of them to deal with. Then it's so much easier um, to connect with yourself and to just get through life and society. Another thing I should go over, because this was not something that I expected, and it wasn't something that, like, I read anywhere as something that could happen. It kind of came out of nowhere for me. I did not expect this at all. But what happened is, before I went on T, I was always a little bit scatterbrained. I was always a little bit forgetful, and so I had like a system of ways that my phone software syncs to my computer, and like I had ways of like having everything communicate and just telling me whether I'm at work or at home or on the drive, reminding me of things and making sure I don't forget anything. And I felt like my brain was a little bit straightened out, but since I went on T, I feel like things have gotten a little jumbled in my head. I feel a little bit more scatterbrained. I feel like I keep forgetting things and just being dumb and just thinking like, oh my gosh, I've got no budget to cover this thing. How are we going to cover this? And then going like, oh my God, I have this budget that totally covers that. Why am I thinking I don't? Like, I just do dumb things like that where I'm like, I am the budget technician. I should know this. Like, how did I forget this? How is someone who knows hardly anything about budgets telling me, reminding me of these things? And I'm going like, oh my God, that's so elementary. How did I forget that? Like, it gets really embarrassing sometimes. And I also find that I'm forgetting a lot more. So as far as that goes, I've just been really having to rely on my system that I established beforehand and just really sticking to it and making sure that as soon as I've got something that I need to remember, I have to write it down immediately. I cannot let anyone come and talk to me, or I cannot answer the phone or anything until I write it down, because literally for a while there, I swear, like within 1 to 3 seconds, I would forget something. Like, if I didn't write it down right away, even if I was focusing like on not forgetting it right then until I could write it down, it would still be gone within like 3 seconds. Sometimes within 1 second if I was feeling really, really scatterbrained. And I also had a lot going on at work and in my personal life, so I had reasons to be so scatterbrained because I'm trying to fulfill a lot of volunteer roles on top of my full-time role, where the one that like actually makes money, puts bread on my table. I'm trying to do a lot, so I have a lot of reason to be like that, but at the same time, testosterone just made it so much worse. Like, I just felt really dumb and just really scatterbrained. I can't remember things from 1 second to the next, and I now have a system where, like, for instance, if someone needs me to come adjust their time in the software that keeps track of people's time, I make them stand there until I'm done typing it in, and then I'm like, okay, is this like what you communicated to me? This is what you meant for me to do? Okay, cool. Like, now you can go. I have to really come up with systems for this stuff. The last thing I want to go over is how I feel about reaching 6 months, because I I couldn't even imagine being here at 6 months ago. Like, this just felt even more than 6 months ago. Like, I would just think about, like, what would it be like, when I reach 6 months if I was to start T. And then when I start T, I'm like, what will I look like? What will I sound like? And what will I be like in 6 months? It always seemed like I know it's not a big milestone, but it seemed like a milestone to me. And now that I am here, I'm just so impressed by my results, by how I look, how I feel. And I just didn't expect testosterone to change me so much for the better. I was really scared to start it. I'd used a gender filter on Snapchat, and it showed me that if I was to look like when I used a male gender filter, it showed me that when I look male, I'm going to look really bad. Like, it gave me like this huge chin that, like, I mean, it was huge. My face was really square, like, and some of that has been happening. Like, my face is a little bit more angular and stuff, but the Snapchat made me look terrible, and I'm really glad that I don't. That so far I seem to be looking better, I would say, than I did beforehand. And so far, I like my voice, and I like the way I feel in general. And I think this has just been such a good decision that I made, and I just feel so good about it. And it feels so great to finally be here at 6 months. And 1 year is now what seems far away, but doesn't seem so far away. And I'm really looking forward to getting there. So, oh, and one more thing I should probably mention is also neck fat is something that, like, loose skin under my chin is something that has happened. I'm a fairly, slender person, but I never expected to, like, have this, like, loose skin. But I think maybe, like, fat moving down, maybe this Adam's apple coming forward and getting bigger through here might have, like, kind of pulled some skin towards over here. And so now I've just got, like, some, like, loose skin. So I kind of have to be careful, like, how I take pictures that you don't all see my neck fat. But I'm going to be working and seeing if there's a way to decrease that a little bit with things like collagen and retinol and all that kind of stuff, and seeing if it's something that we can work on. And also, I do a lot of weightlifting, which is the other thing they say to do for it, but that clearly hasn't been helping much because I've been lifting weights like crazy for 6 months, and I still managed to get this skin fat. So just wanted to throw that out there. But I think I've covered everything that I can think of that testosterone has done for me. So thank you so much for watching this video, and for supporting me, and for showing your support, and just for being here for me. And I hope you all got something out of this video, and I hope it helps you all in some way. So thank you so much, and I look forward to doing this again in 6 months.
Hi everyone, my name is Aryan. This is my first week on T.
Hi everyone, my name is Aryan, and this is my first month on T. Hi everyone, my name is Aryan Reed, and this is my second month on T.
Hi everyone, this is Aryan Reed, and this is my third month on T. Hi everyone, this is Aryan Reed, and this is my fourth month on T. Hi everyone, this is Aryan Reed, and this is my fifth month on T. Hi everyone, this is Aryan Reed, and this is my 6 months on T.
This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice.
This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. This is my talking voice. You used to smile, you used to hug. Now you just stand there looking at your feet.
Phantom girl, look at me.
You're already
I'm your
strong.
future and I'm not lonely.
It's
No,
okay
I'm
to
strong
be
now.